Lesson number 16, the Fourth Amendment, Search and Seizure. In this lesson, we'll learn about your rights when it comes to your personal property, including your car, your house, your purse, your book bag, whatever, and what the government can and cannot do when it comes to searching your personal property. So our objectives are we're going to listen and describe the rights afforded to Americans under the Fourth Amendment. So we're going to see what's in the Fourth Amendment. We're going to evaluate whether or not specific examples uphold or violate Fourth Amendment rights. So you're going to look at examples of instances where the Fourth Amendment has come into play, and you're going to decide whether or not the person in the example was wronged or if they weren't wronged, if the cops were doing the right thing. Our central questions, the things you'll be able to answer but don't actually have to. What rights are guaranteed under the Fourth Amendment? So what's in the Fourth Amendment? And how do these freedoms affect us today? So how do these things that are in the Fourth Amendment affect our lives today? So here's the Fourth Amendment. I'll read it to you, and then I'll explain to you on the next slide in simpler terms what it means. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Did you get all that? I didn't. It's a lot to take in. That's why on the next slide I'm going to kind of break it down and try and show you what it means in some simpler terms. It just means that you have the right to your own personal space and your own personal privacy. Your things can't just be taken and searched by the government unless they have a good reason to do it. So why is it so important? It secures our right to privacy. And that's what our democracy is all about, is that we should have government there to help us and protect us, but we should be able to go about our lives without overwhelming government control and interference. So this one keeps it so the government can't just take our stuff and search our stuff unless they have a very, very good reason to do so. So what's reasonable mean? It said reasonable in there. How do you decide if a search, like if a cop or somebody else decides to search you or your car or your house? How is reasonable decided? How is it decided that a search would be reasonable in a situation? If a cop's going to do it, the cop has to have probable cause and or a warrant. Probable cause means the cop has to have a very, very good reason why that search is happening. And the reason has to be brought up to a judge, and the judge will give that cop a warrant. Now, if the search happens, and then later on you think that there wasn't a good reason for the cop to do it, and the cop just did it because the cop felt like doing it, you can actually take that cop to court, and if the cop can't prove that he or she had probable cause or reason to search you, that cop could get in trouble. And even what happens to you could be thrown out the window. So it's got to be more than a hunch, but the cop doesn't have to be like 100% sure that you're guilty. But they can't just say, I think that person did something wrong. There has to be a reason. Like if they see you walking out of a house that is known for selling drugs, that might be a good reason to search you. If they see you just walking down the street and you're not doing anything, you're not breaking any laws, they can't just search you because you're wearing a hoodie or something like that. Sometimes when the cops are a little more experienced, there's some lenience. That's what we're going to look at in one of the court cases. So what happens when it's unreasonable? If you don't have a good reason or there's not a warrant, that's what unreasonable means. What if a cop searches you just because of what you look like? That's something that they're not supposed to do. But believe it or not, there's some laws in place in some parts of the country where they can profile, which means if you meet the description of someone who tends to commit crimes, or someone who resembles someone that has committed a crime, they can search you. It's called profiling, and it's something that's brought up into court cases a lot. And whether it's right or wrong is debated from case to case. What about in school? If you go to centers, so what are your rights there? Well, sorry, but schools are able to search you. These things don't usually apply to schools. What's the reason for that? Why don't you have the same rights as other Americans? School safety has been put kind of above the Fourth Amendment in a lot of court cases. So, for example, bag searches, locker searches, these things, having to leave your stuff at the front of the center door. It's seen that safety is more important than protecting search and seizure. So the fact that staff are doing that for your own safety supersedes or is more important than unreasonable search and seizure. That's the idea, or at least that's what's been decided in court cases, especially over the past 30 or 40 years, is that school safety is more important than the Fourth Amendment. So if public school officials feel like it's necessary to promote safety, they can do it. Some examples: purses and book bags. If they think that there's definitely something in there, they can usually check it. Lockers. They can pretty much search the locker whenever they want because it's school property. It's technically not your property. Body searches. They're allowed to do this. Do pat downs, but strip searches are not allowed. And then canine searches, like bringing a dog into school to sniff lockers and things like that. That's seen as okay because technically, the dogs are not actually going into your stuff. They're just smelling. So that's been considered to be reasonable and okay. In private schools, though, because they're private schools and they're not associated with states, because public schools are associated with the state that they're in. Private schools are kind of run on their own. Students that are in private schools are not afforded these rights at all. The private school can do whatever they want. They can search their rooms, their purses, their book bags, the locker. They don't even have to have a reason to do it. They don't even have to say because it's for school safety. They can just do it in private schools. So those are just two examples looking at school and how they relate. We'll look at other examples in the court case that goes with this amendment. It will involve police entering someone's home when they were uninvited, and whether or not the persons whose home it was, whether or not their Fourth Amendment rights were violated. So make sure you answer the questions that are below this video first, and then you can go to the assignment that talks about the court case. If you need any help, just ask. If not, good luck.